Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's podcast. The last time I told you that I would be sharing on a couple of different ways that I feel like God speaks to us or that we can hear or receive from Him. This is not meant to be an all-inclusive list. Really, it couldn't be because, God's God, and He alone decides how He's going to communicate with His people and how they're going to receive from Him. But for me, it seems as though there's kind of been primarily three different ways that I receive from the Lord. Those are hearing, seeing, and sensing. And so I just want to share a few thoughts with you about that today. And we're not going to get finished with it today on this podcast either, but we'll get started anyway. Proverbs chapter 20, verse 12 says that the hearing ear and the seeing eye, the Lord has made them both. And so those are gifts from God that He intends for us to use. Now, I've never actually seen an open vision. I know a lot of people who have. I'm just not among them. And yet there are ways that we see. I have seen different things in the Spirit. Sometimes when I'm praying, and usually my eyes are closed when I see. Sounds strange to say that, but that's exactly how it happens for me. But He does allow me to see things when I seek Him, when I'm praying, and oftentimes I also have received through dreams in the nighttime. Job chapter 33, verses 14 through 16, one of my favorite passages in the Old Testament, says, God may speak one way or another, yet man does not perceive it. In a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falls upon men, while slumbering on their beds, then He opens the ears of men and the souls, and He seals their instruction. So dreams are usually, for me anyway, quite visual in nature. Sometimes I will hear different phrases during a dream that somebody might speak in the dream, but usually it's mostly focused on the visual aspect of it and the symbolism, the symbolic things that I see in those dreams. When there are verses or different things that are said during the dreams, usually that audio type part of it does have some fairly deep significance. Dreams are usually very visual in nature. When I'm praying, I also get mental pictures sometimes when I'm praying, and I'll see something that provides instructions on how I'm supposed to pray. And like I said, I usually see with my eyes closed. Now, there's another part of receiving from God, and that's hearing from God. And again, I'm going to say this. I've never actually heard the audible voice of God. I know many people who have. I haven't. I believe that people can and do hear God's audible voice. I just haven't experienced it. And yet it's clear that from Scripture, God's people should hear His voice. Jesus uses the example of sheep and the shepherd. It says in John chapter 10, it says that the sheep know His voice and they will not follow the voice of a stranger. To understand that fully, we really have to know exactly what was going on during the time of Jesus in terms of how shepherds would lead their flock. They would lead them by their voices, and they would try to find a pasture. Green pasture is very rare, still is in Israel. And when they would find it, they would stay there until they had taken everything they could off of that pasture. And they would form these, they called them sheepfolds. It was like a gated area or a fenced-in area. The fence, though, was made out of a pile of rocks all the way around the edge of this thing, and there was a gate. And they would put their flocks inside the sheepfold. Oftentimes there would be more than one flock there. And so the sheep would all intermingle throughout the whole night and everything, and then it came time to leave during the next day. The shepherds, one by one, would go to the gate and they would call their flock. The flock would hear and recognize the voice of their shepherd. They would follow that voice. They wouldn't follow the voice of anybody else. John says that He brings His own sheep out. He goes before them and the sheep follow Him, and they know His voice, they hear His voice. Yet they will by no means follow the voice of a stranger, but they will flee from him, for they do not know the voice of the stranger. So that covers a couple of the ways of receiving from God. And the next time we get together, I'll cover a third area, and that's the area of sensing. Hope this is helpful for you. God bless you.